Hey everybody, welcome back. I don't know how much battery I have left on my earbuds, but we are going to try to watch another episode of Meltdown. I just got done watching the mid-season finale for season 4 of Stranger Things. I was all excited about it. It's probably a bad time to try to go into Meltdown, but we're going to see what's going on. Last we left, things were worse off than they were letting people know about. So let's see what's happening now. And this one's called Women and Children First. So, yeah, they started evacuating. That's a pretty building. And that's right, there was confusion going around too.
Looking out the window, all you could see were cars lined up to get out.
Traffic jams. Yeah, that's what my school bus looked like.
This is kind of like Star Wars, stormtroopers.
Uh,
But I
and
got
that
to
movie
see
had
why
just
they
come out a
weren't
couple of
there.
years before. That's quite the
That's what
car,
the
isn't it?
Officials disclosed today that radiation in the building's dome was measured at 30,000 rems an hour, 75 times the lethal dose for a human being, and 3,000 times the level for a nuclear reactor in normal operation.
Wow.
The management of information turned out to be one of the great challenges of this crisis. There were 1,000 rumors and conflicting sources of information.
I was going to say they were talking
All of
about
this set up
misinformation,
incredible
disinformation, and the lion.
because the consequences of a hydrogen bubble potentially were disastrous.
Go in there and pop that bubble.
The explosion blew the entire roof of the reactor apart, leading to radiation being released into the environment.
Okay.
That accident took place in 1986, and for centuries, parts of that area around
7 years
Chernobyl
later.
will be sealed off.
There's contamination of thousands of square miles of land.
And what has been stated here?
I was extremely frightened because there
And
was
we
no
did
way
see
to
all
test
that
it
happen
in
with
place.
Chernobyl.
The Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the utility, just blew it on their communications, not only between each other, but with the people. They let the people live in fear while they tried to decide what to do.
But that brings up the question of how much information do you release so that you're transparent, but at the same time not cause panic? And you're going to have panic no matter what. So it's the level of panic that you're trying to control. I've I've always been told all my life I am too honest. I give too much information, all that kind of stuff. So I would probably be the one that is telling you every single possibility that could happen. But look, this is what's going on right now, and this is how things are looking, which is stable for the moment, kind of stuff. Would that help the public? Probably not. But I am being transparent and letting them know what's going on. And they can make a decision on if they want to stay near the area or not. Him saying, basically, he's saying that the state or the feds gave them too much information and everybody was fearful, and so all of this negative stuff happened. But I mean, is it fair to let people live in ignorance and not know if they're in danger or not, and then have all these consequences happen because you didn't react fast enough? Chernobyl being a great example of that. I know he doesn't have that example, but they didn't tell their people anything, and there were still cool school kids walking around Privet, and meanwhile, Germany is not letting their kids outside. So where's the balance is the question. How much do you release? How much do you not release? People are going to panic no matter what. There's going to be rumors no matter what. So how do you control it?
Try to put it into
relative risk terms.
I remember those calculators.
Relocated to shelters, including this sports arena, 11 miles away from the plant.
It's not far enough if it explodes.
This is a very tough call to make when you don't have really clear knowledge to go on.
I would not want to be in their shoes. My sleep meds are starting to kick in. So hopefully I talk enough. That's pretty. That looks familiar.
President Carter coming to 3 Mile Island was to reassure the American public they had nothing to fear.
My primary concern in coming here.
You have nothing to fear but fear itself.
Finally confirmed that the hydrogen bubble did not present a serious threat.
Well, that's good.
I was so relieved. We had gotten through it without the loss of life.
But there's going to be more that happens. We got 2 more episodes after this.
Phase was over.
I've directed the establishment of an independent presidential commission of experts to investigate the causes of this accident and to make recommendations on how we can improve the safety of nuclear power plants.
Sorry about the yawning. It's kind of a different response from what we saw with Gorbachev and the Russian leadership or the USSR leadership. They didn't want to admit that any of it was the state's fault, and they didn't need to fix anything, even though the scientists were pointing out this is what the problem is, this is why it happened, and they just wanted to shove it under the rug. So him saying that, now whether they actually do it's a whole other thing, but him saying that at least is a little more humbling than what we saw with Chernobyl as far as presentation.
A little of that radiation does a little harm, more of it does more
Neurobiologist. That monkey bar set, I think that's what we called it. We had that exact same one at my school, and we played in it all the time. But I remember the rounded part of the monkey bars.
Hershey has not used any new milk since the accident and is testing its products for radioactivity.
Areas where the plant dumped wastewater.
I'm glad Hershey was trying to be responsible.
Radioactive iodine.
But what I remember seeing were a lot of dead fish.
Mm.
And the first time in 10 days, the governor of Pennsylvania lifted all of his orders regarding the power plant accident. This allowed the schools to reopen and pregnant women to return to their homes in a 5-mile radius of the plant.
But yet we've got dead fish.
She had been outdoors Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, riding around all day on a bike.
Oh, wow. Radiation burn.
Skin broke out with lesions.
People were beginning to say no nuclear power, which was something that you were never going to hear of under normal circumstances in our community.
The no nuclear power protest sounds familiar.
They started out by telling us the radiation that your children got was no more than if you had smoked a cigarette or had drunk a glass of wine.
You don't get radiation burns from that.
My children wine and cigarettes. Why are you allowed to give me radiation that's equated to that?
More than 300 residents confronted this.
Good question.
The NRC answered, and then at another meeting, the same question was asked, and it was a completely different answer.
That's not cool.
I was so against protesters. People marching down Pennsylvania Avenue questioning our government. How dare they?
But now she gets it.
I can feel racism. I cannot see radiation. I cannot.
Shoo, they're up there pretty tall on that statue. 6 months later, wow.
The errors made in the course of this accident were human errors. Out of the 6 things that went wrong, about 4.5 were people errors. 1 was an equipment malfunction, and maybe 1 was a design error.
Okay, so seem to be splitting the fault.
Perhaps post TMI, there's a different philosophy.
Every time I hear TMI, I think too much information.
$18.2 million in evacuation expenses and
Wow.
lost wages.
Nobody knew for sure how much damage was done to the reactor.
Does that mean something else is going to happen?
It's 5 feet down. Hey, go slow right there. See if we can get that. All right, let me slow down here. Just slow. We've got so much light.
Corrosion?
a lot more damage done to the reactor than anybody thought we had done. Anybody.
We're
Wow.
talking about massive core damage.
That means they got to
Boiling
shut it
water,
down
boiling water,
and then
no
replace
evidence
everything.
There was another scenario awaiting us that was potentially much more dangerous than the accident.
Was it at the twin station that they were talking about? And that's the end of that. They kept studying the situation, and as they had the availability, did this last thing of putting the camera and the sound thing in and discovering that it was a lot worse than they thought, than they estimated. And I don't know how new nuclear energy was at that time. Like Carter, when he served, dealt with nuclear energy stuff. So it's older than it seems, but it seems like the experts still didn't know a lot at that time. A lot of the potential risk type of stuff. So, I don't know. We'll have to see what this new danger is that is duplicating and kind of go from there. Like I said, the meds are kicking in, so thank you all for joining me on this one, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.